think it's time we blow this scene. Get it.
We all have to go someday.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
Okay, so there are a lot of internet personalities these days, like this dude, or this dude, no not you, or this dude. They can all come in different shapes and different sizes from different places, and to me they've always felt so far away for people that are constantly a part of our everyday lives. See, that's the thing with social media, is that just by looking at someone's page, you can get a look into someone's whole world. Their social relationships, their likes and their dislikes, their personalities. And of all these thousands, maybe even millions of social media personalities, no one has quite fascinated me like Zechariah Strumsky. Unlike many of these other internet personalities, Zech is completely genuine in everything he does. And at first glance, his page might look like some dumb, cringy content, but if you look closer, you might see the closest thing to an actual human being on the internet.
And that's why when I was at the Liberty, you're gonna watch me chug this whole water bottle to prove I drink water. Here we go. I'm gonna do the expert challenge. Give me a second. Here we go. There we go. Empty as hell. I just drank a whole water. Yeah, finally. Oh, my voice is cracking. Alright. Whew. That should get me filled up for today. Oh my god. I actually can't believe I chugged the whole water. Damn. Whew. I'm trying to catch my breath. It's hot in here. Really.
What's always made Zech so interesting to me is his complete willingness to share anything that's ever happened to him on the internet to thousands of people. Unlike someone like a Logan Paul or a David Dobrik, there's really no reason for anyone to be following Zech. He's just a normal kid from suburbia who still lives with his parents, yet somehow he's been able to amass a cult following on the internet. But finding this new fame has not been all positive for Zech, and through his addict-level usage of social media, he's constantly affected his relationships with his friends and his family around him, and himself. In the 2 years I've been following Zech, me and many other members of Zech's cult following have noticed a cycle that Zech has been constantly repeating over and over again since the creation of his Instagram. This has been dubbed the Zech cycle for obvious reasons. Begins with Zech creating a new Instagram. Over the years, he's gone by many different names on multiple accounts, but despite his constant deletion and recreation of accounts, Zech has somehow always been able to maintain and grow his cult following. While in his bio, Zech will claim to be a lot of things, his main aspirations in life lay in music, where, fun fact, he actually threw some shade at me in this documentary in one of his most recent songs.
I hate y'all comparing me to Christian. Call me that, I'm out the window when I'm gone. I'm not here for a documentary. I'm here to follow my dreams, I'm a visionary.
The next phase of the cycle is Zech posts a massive amount of content that attracts hate comments. In this phase, we see Zech post at a completely asinine rate. Like, I can't even make a funny metaphor to compare it with something. That's just how crazy it is.
These posts are about literally everything that pops into Zech's head, like what video
Right.
game he's playing right now.
That's my joke.
A
I
joke.
came up with that because
Really
donut
just anything.
sounds like
But
don't
because of how much Zech posts and what he posts about, in between piles of content about random shit, there lay windows into Zech's personal life. In between a post about Sims 4 and Zech singing is a post about his adoption from Romania and how he desires to go back there and find his biological parents. There's also a part where he starts talking about how he doesn't think he has a father and that he thinks God planted him inside his mother's womb and he's meant to become king there. But we'll cover that later. There are also posts about his struggle with U.S. immigration and even his medical history, but for your sake I won't go too far into that. But he did make sure to share a photo of his earwax after not cleaning his ears for 7 years. The next part of the cycle is Zech addresses the hate comments. With how much Zech posts and shares, he has opened himself up as a target for people to poke fun of, usually criticizing him for his looks and his actions, but also targeting his lifestyle and his lack of a job. To those comments, Zech usually responds with posting long videos where he tries to explain his situation, promising that he's going to be getting a job soon. But as these comments have piled up over time, Zech has started to respond with more anger, which is totally understandable if you have thousands of random people constantly harassing you every day. But the way he responds to these comments is interesting, usually telling people that they're just jealous of him and his internet clout, and in other cases he's also said he's more pure than other people. But nonetheless, this still leads to our next point in the cycle.
You know deep down that you're jealous that I got 13,000 followers and I'm still getting followers and still building up. I should have never actually deleted all my other accounts because
After a while of hate comments and responses, Zech will eventually disable the comments and attempt to mitigate the hate. The comments are usually limited to just those he follows back, which are mostly people he knows in real life and random girls. There's not really a lot to say about these parts. These are a dark time for the Zech community. After a while of the comments being disabled and a break in the flow of hate, Zech is starting to feel good again, and our boy is resilient, so he re-enables the comments, proudly announcing that he is strong and he will not let the hate get to him.
then when I said my final decision, but I've gave it some thought, and I think that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter anymore because I'm strong. I'm a strong person, and
in this phase, we start to see the motivational posts and quotes telling people to be strong posted. But as this goes on, we start to see Zech calling himself things like the light in the darkness, and he's also even called himself the protagonist of the earth, stating that he's the only one that can save the world.
I look at society now and what it has become. I'm thinking that, it needs help. That's where I come in. That's where I come in and save the day. Your lucky hero of the day is coming back and returning to save the day.
But even with his newfound strength, our boy's resilience only goes so far. Despite being positive and trying to inspire the masses, the hate comments just keep coming. One of the most common criticisms of Zech is the accusation of him having a massive ego/God complex. Now, we've already seen hints of this throughout this, but where could this be coming from? How does a 20-year-old with no job get a massive ego? Well, who am I to say? But here's my theory on it anyway. We could tell from watching Zech that he has a tendency to embody the media he interacts with, to the extreme. An example of this is when he watched Scarface and then dressed and talked like a mobster for an entire week.
What? I decided to do me. To do me. I don't do you. I don't do anybody else in this local town.
This might be a stretch, but I believe that Zech's worldview has been heavily affected by the media he has consumed. Zech constantly refers to things like an anime, and sees them in a very black and white way. When talking about someone he's beefing with at the time, he refers to them as evil or dark, and himself as good and light. He often talks about a power that he feels like he has inside of him, and has also posted videos claiming to have had visions, confirming things to him.
I had a dream that, the world was ending and there was a big loud trumpet. It was the hugest trumpet I ever heard, and it was scary too. People were panicking. It felt like it was later on in the future, but it was actually, I don't think it was like a real something like a vision. I believe it was just God telling me that maybe, the rapture's coming, maybe not, but
And as we've seen earlier, he has called himself the protagonist of the world and has had a history of talking down to people. So proposing that Zech has an ego problem or a god complex is not on unjust grounds. After the hate comments have gotten to be too much again, we enter the next 3 phases of the cycle. Zech announces a break from social media, usually ranging from a week to months at a time. Zech comes back hours later, the same day as posting that, and Zech will post claiming that he just wants to say goodbye to his fans, as he keeps posting at his regular rate. These phases are pretty self-explanatory from the points, but it's important to note that these constant contradictions usually lead to more hate comments about how he's addicted to social media. So finally, that leads us to our next point. Zech claims he's finally leaving now. This time, he'll usually stick with it for multiple days at a time, and sometimes even make it months without posting, but he has always returned before the date he has set. The longest break Zech has ever taken was 2 months, but has since returned from that. So now that Zech has had a while of relaxing away from social media, it's time for him to return. Zech will come back triumphantly, usually presenting himself as a changed person now, coming back with a newly cleaned room and a new haircut, and sometimes he's even claimed to have finally gotten a job. He posts videos talking about self-love and how much he's improved himself over his break. And he'll usually also claim that this is just a check-in post, to let everyone know how he's doing. But the cycle must go on, and soon after he'll post again, and then again, and then again. Quickly his new better self starts to fall apart, but he keeps posting more, and more, and then the next thing you know, there are 3 hours worth of content on his Snapchat story. And only hours after returning and claiming to have a job, Zech will go back on a statement, admitting he had lied. When Zech comes back and presents himself as a new man, the hate comes back just as strong. When it's revealed Zech lied about getting a job, more people than ever start criticizing him. Still seeing this hate appear, Zech finally does it, and deletes his account. But the cycle always reigns supreme, and no matter what, Zech would always return weeks to months later. In the 2 years I've been following Zech, I've seen the cycle repeat many times over. But in June of 2019, Zech had his account taken down by Instagram, due to mass reporting. So the question remains, are we still on the Zech cycle currently? The answer is yes. As I was near finishing this movie, Zech has returned to Instagram yet again, after only being on Snapchat, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube for 4 months. So now that I've forced you through this journey of looking at some random kids from Missouri's entire life, and low-key stalking him, what makes him more human than any other person on social media? Most people today use their social media to present themselves a certain way and control it, letting you only see what fits into that idea of themselves. But with Zech, we see everything. And while it might be an incoherent mess, it's somebody's entire world.